unlocking the Quran's mystical language, the science of Tawil. Assalamu alaikum, and welcome to Sufi Essence. For many of us, the Quran is a book of divine law, a guide for our daily lives, a source of moral and ethical instruction. We read its verses, we learn its rules, and we strive to implement its teachings. But what if the Quran was more than a book of literal commands? What if its words were a gateway to a hidden universe of meaning, a mystical language waiting to be unlocked by those with the keys? This hidden layer of meaning, this profound spiritual science, is known in Sufi tradition as Tawil. Today, in this lecture, we will embark on a journey into the heart of the Quran's mystical language. We will explore the science of Tawil, or spiritual exegesis, which goes beyond the literal surface of the text to reveal its inner truths. We will uncover the secrets of the Quran's dual nature, the outer meaning Zahir and the inner reality Batin. We will learn that the Quran is not just a book to be read, but a living, breathing reality to be experienced. This is a journey to understand how the great Sufi masters saw the Quran not as a static text, but as a dynamic spiritual guide that speaks directly to the soul, leading the sincere seeker to a profound and intimate knowledge of Allah. Part 1. The Foundation. Zahir, outer and Batin, inner to understand Tawil. We must first grasp a foundational concept in Islamic mysticism, that everything in creation, including the Quran, has a dual nature, an outer form and an inner reality. The outer form of the Quran is its words, its verses, and its literal meanings. This is known as the Zahir, or the apparent. The inner reality, however, is its deeper, mystical, and symbolic meaning. This is known as the Batin, or the hidden. The relationship between the Zahir and the Batin is like a shell and its kernel. The shell is necessary to protect the kernel, but the true nourishment lies within. The literal meanings of the Quran are the shells that protect the profound spiritual realities within. Without the Zahir, the Batin would be lost to us. However, without exploring the Batin, we only ever touch the surface of the Quran's vast wisdom. The Sufi masters teach that the purpose of the spiritual journey is to move from the outer meaning to the inner reality, to move from the word to its spiritual essence. The Zahir is for the masses, while the Batin is for the sincere seeker who yearns for a deeper connection with Allah. The science of Tawil is the sacred methodology that bridges this gap. It is the spiritual discipline of penetrating the outer shell to reveal the inner kernel. This does not mean that we negate the literal meaning of the Quran. Rather, we see the literal meaning as a necessary and sacred signpost that points to a deeper truth. The Zahir is the hand that guides us to the door of the Batin, and Tawil is the key that unlocks that door. This is a journey of spiritual unveiling, of seeing the world not just with our physical eyes, but with the eye of our heart. Part 2. The prophetic example of Tawil. The practice of Tawil is not a later invention of Sufi mystics. Its roots are firmly planted in the life and teachings of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. He was the first and greatest practitioner of Tawil, revealing the deeper meanings of the Quran to his closest companions. A famous example is the story of the verse, "And when the help of Allah has come, and the victory, ... 2 Tamors, Quran 110-1. This verse was a promise of a military victory and the conquest of Mecca. But to the inner circle, the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, gave a different interpretation. He revealed to a young Ibn Abbas, may Allah be pleased with him, that this verse was, in fact, a sign of his own impending death. The victory was not just a worldly one. It was the spiritual victory of a life lived in service to Allah, culminating in his return to his Lord. This prophetic example shows us two critical things. First, that the Quran contains layers of meaning that are not immediately obvious. Second, that access to these deeper meanings is not a matter of intellectual prowess alone, but of spiritual purity. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, revealed this secret to Ibn Abbas, a young man known for his deep faith and sincere love for Allah. This teaches us that Tawil is a sacred trust, a divine gift given to those whose hearts are prepared to receive it. It is a spiritual inheritance passed down from the Prophet himself to those who are on the path of sincerity. Part 3. The Science of Tawil. More than interpretation, it is crucial to understand that Tawil is not mere personal interpretation or guesswork. It is a precise and disciplined science with a strict methodology. The difference between Ta'wil and Tafsir exegesis is profound. Tafsir is the science of explaining the outer, literal meaning of the Quran using established rules of grammar, jurisprudence, and historical context. It is essential for understanding the Quran's legal and ethical commands. Ta'wil, on the other hand, is the science of uncovering the inner spiritual meaning. It requires three critical components. Linguistic mastery. The practitioner of Ta'wil must have a deep and profound understanding of the Arabic language, its roots, its poetic nuances, and its symbolic nature. They must know that a single word can have multiple layers of meaning. They are not inventing meanings, but uncovering the hidden possibilities that are already present within the divine language. Spiritual purity. The heart of the practitioner must be clean, free from the veils of ego, envy, and worldly attachment. As the Sufi masters say, the Quran is not in the ink, it is in the heart. The heart is the spiritual tool through which the mystical meanings are revealed. The more pure the heart, the clearer the spiritual vision. Connection to the prophetic tradition. Ta'wil must never contradict the literal meaning of the Quran or the established teachings of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. A true spiritual interpretation must always align with the core principles of Islam. Any interpretation that contradicts the Zahir is not Ta'wil, but a dangerous and misleading innovation. Therefore, Ta'wil is a sacred science that demands both a brilliant intellect and a purified heart. It is the meeting point of knowledge and wisdom of the mind and the soul. Part 4. Ta'wil and the stories of the Quran. The stories in the Quran are a perfect example of where Ta'wil truly shines. While they appear to be simple historical narratives, they are, in fact, rich with mystical symbols and spiritual lessons. A powerful illustration of this is the story of Prophet Musa and the mysterious servant of Allah Al-Qadir. On the surface, the story is about a journey where Al-Qadir performs a series of bizarre and seemingly destructive acts, scuttling a boat, killing a boy, and repairing a wall for ungrateful people. Prophet Musa, a man of justice and law, repeatedly questions these actions. From a literal worldly perspective, Al-Qadir's actions were unjust and irrational. However, through Ta'wil, the Sufi masters revealed the profound inner meaning. The boat that was scuttled represents the worldly self, which must be spiritually damaged to protect it from the ego's tyranny, personified by the unjust king. The boy who is killed represents the potential for future rebellion and corruption, which must be symbolically killed at its root to save his righteous parents from a life of sorrow. The wall that was repaired represents the hidden spiritual treasures that must be preserved for the righteous, even in a community that shows no gratitude. The story of Musa and Al-Qadir is not just a tale from the past. It is a spiritual allegory of our own journey. We are Musa, a man of the Zahir, who is often confused by the seemingly illogical and difficult decrees of Allah. Al-Qadir is the divine wisdom that acts in a way that our limited intellect cannot comprehend. This story teaches us that true wisdom is often hidden behind the veil of apparent hardship, and that we must cultivate patience and trust to see the deeper, divine logic in everything that happens to us. This is the heart of Ta'wil, to see the hand of Allah's mercy and wisdom even in the midst of apparent chaos. Part 5. The role of Ta'wil in mystical experience for the spiritual seeker. Ta'wil is not just an academic exercise. It is an active practice that can lead to profound mystical experiences and a direct experiential understanding of the Quran. Through the disciplined practice of Ta'wil, the seeker begins to see the Quran not as a static text, but as a living, breathing reality that speaks to their soul. A verse that was once a simple legal command now becomes a window into the divine names and attributes of Allah. The stories of the prophets are no longer just historical accounts, but a reflection of the spiritual struggles within their own hearts. This state of spiritual unveiling is known as kashf, a divine opening of the heart's eye. When a person reaches this state, they do not just read the Quran, they experience it. They feel the awe of the verse of the throne, the mercy of the verses of forgiveness, and the love of the verses of divine beauty. The Quran becomes a personal conversation with Allah, a sacred dialogue that guides, heals, and purifies the soul. The words of the Quran become a mirror, reflecting back to them the state of their own heart and guiding them to a deeper truth. This is the highest level of understanding, an understanding that transcends the intellect and resides in the realm of the spirit. Part 6. Navigating the dangers of Ta'wil. While Ta'wil is a beautiful and necessary science for the spiritual seeker, it is not without its dangers. The great Sufi masters and scholars were very careful to warn against its potential pitfalls. The first and most significant danger is to stray from the core teachings of the Quran and the Sunnah. Any interpretation, no matter how profound it seems, that contradicts the literal meaning of a clear and unambiguous verse, or the established practice of the Prophet, peace be upon him, is to be rejected. The Zahir is the anchor that keeps the ship of the Batin from being lost at sea. The second danger is falling into the trap of the ego. A person who has not purified their heart may use Ta'wil to justify their own desires and whims, or to create a false sense of spiritual superiority. The ego loves to feel special and unique, and it can easily misuse Ta'wil as a tool for intellectual arrogance. The true practitioner of Ta'wil is a person of profound humility, for they know that the insights they receive are not from their own intellect, but a gift from Allah. Therefore, Ta'wil is a sacred trust that should only be practiced by those who have dedicated their lives to both knowledge and spiritual purification. It is a path that requires a living guide, a master who can protect the seeker from the illusions of their own ego and the pitfalls of misinterpretation. Part 7. Conclusion and call to action. The science of Ta'wil is a profound and beautiful spiritual discipline that invites us to a deeper, more intimate relationship with the Quran. It is the science of moving from the outer form to the inner reality, from the literal word to the living spiritual essence. It is the key that unlocks the Quran's mystical language, revealing a hidden universe of meaning that speaks directly to the soul. By understanding the duality of the Zahir and Batin, by learning from the prophetic example, and by following the disciplined path of love, remembrance, and contemplation, we can begin to see the Quran not just as a book of laws, but as a living guide that leads us to the heart of the divine. The journey of Ta'wil is a journey to see Allah in every verse, to find our own story in every prophetic narrative, and to find our own peace in every promise. Watch, reflect, and share. Subscribe to our channel for more beneficial content.